Is Xbox shutting down their physical hardware division? Is Microsoft completely moving away from it and it's just all going to be cloud-based? Sure as hell starts to feel like that the more and more stories that come out. Grums on X says, it's been awfully quiet on Xbox social media accounts. Workday has started, and the biggest rumor in gaming about canceled hardware has gone viral. Easy to denounce, and if not true, they should just put it to rest. Phil Spencer saying absolutely nothing about what's going on right now, with everyone wondering, why is Xbox not saying anything with this massive rumor that has gone extremely viral? It's from MBG. They said, according to extremely reliable Xbox leaker SneakerSO, new Xbox hardware might not be happening despite what they've already announced. He also says Microsoft is now 100% a third-party publisher, and the new home for the platform will now be Xbox Cloud. Holy shit. NeoGaf, Xbox new hardware is up in the air and may not happen despite their announcements. I mean, before I even go on with this, could Microsoft's Xbox division have a worse year with all the companies they've purchased and all the games and developers that they work with and are putting out on Game Pass? What seems like every month or two, there's games coming out, and no one bats an eye or cares about any of them. Like, think about that for a second. I say any of them, save for a couple. Okay, I'm sure like Elder Scrolls, yeah, people cared about. But by and large, games come out like Indiana Jones, people are like, oh, it's great. No one talks about Indiana Jones anymore. So they have this problem of the games come out, there's this big boom, and then no one cares about them anymore. And everyone just moves on from it. And maybe they're noticing that internally as well. Xbox new hardware is up in the air and may not happen despite their announcement. More retail stores will pull Xbox from sale, and Microsoft is becoming a 100% third-party publisher. Now, I commented on this a couple of weeks ago when I was talking about how Xbox was being removed from shelves of Costco. The new Xbox Series X and S were not being sold anymore at any Costco's nationwide, which was a big deal. But at the same time, it was like, well, it's Costco. Like, they bring in new inventory and change it all the time. Not a big deal. Then it came out that Sam's Club was doing the same thing, and they're not selling Microsoft Xboxes anymore either. And it's like, whoa, this is interesting. Now we have a trend of this happening. This comes from SneakerSO. The insider accurately leaked Xbox third-party plans. They said, without going into too much detail, not long after the last round of layoffs, next one should be coming in Q1 26, by the way. It's just going to be as massive as the last one. Well, there you go. You heard it here first. That massive layoff that happened at Microsoft in July. I was visiting my parents in Massachusetts when I recorded that video. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was like, holy crap. They laid off, what was it, like 8,000 people, and replacing people with AI jobs, and canceled Perfect Dark, canceled Contraband or delayed Contraband or whatever. And so many other games just up in the air or canceled. Studios shut down. It was a nuclear bomb dropped in the game industry in July of this year. They're saying that's going to happen again in Q1 2026 for Microsoft again. Yikes. Some rumblings out of Xbox started coming out that were a little hard to believe. The ramifications of the Call of Duty GP Gambit not working out, Game Pass Gambit, were not working out. We're just starting to get properly measured. But the thing that really stuck out to me was that suddenly really concrete plans for actual MS Xbox hardware went from being definitive to up in the air, which was really startling, given that this thing was meant to be out relatively soon. It was one of those situations where, despite folks being told, hey, want to pull the trigger on this in 2026, the steps you would need to take in the lead up to delivering a new console gen weren't being met. Lots of things that were sure things started getting pushed. The Costco retailer pulling Xbox, and apparently they are one of many that we'll learn about soon, told me all I needed to know. To sum it up, the future of Xbox is software publishing, with a significant honed-in focus on profitable IPs. Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, Minecraft, Candy Crush, Forza Horizon. cloud gaming being the home of the Xbox platform, transitioning Game Pass into basically becoming the point of entry subscription for Xbox Cloud Access, which will continue to drive its price tag higher. By the way, they aren't done there just yet either. Yikes! So this legitimate leaker just confirmed, if it is to be believed, that the Game Pass price hike that we just saw is not the end of the price hikes for Game Pass, which I might remind you guys already went up 50% over the last price raise that they had, which is insane already. And releasing their software on a device that has a marketplace and users willing to buy their titles. Maybe some OEM thing will take up the Xbox name, but given what is clearly a collapse in favorable mindshare and faith in said brand, I'm not even sure a third-party OEM is going to want to have the Xbox console by the time Microsoft is done with their reorienting their division. I'm telling you guys, the direction that the PlayStation 5 is going and them already making a PlayStation 6, which at this point, I have no intention to buy a PS6, just game on PC at this point. Why would you? The only console, I know this sounds crazy to say right now, the only console that's going to exist in the future is Nintendo. Once again, Nintendo is going to be the Twinkie that survives the nuclear fallout and all of gaming getting destroyed. Nintendo will still be there. This is insane. MGBG says, for those wondering, Tom Warning of The Verge is letting everyone know SneakerSO is a legit source and knows what they're talking about. Tom Warren says, SneakerSO knows a lot of what goes on internally at Xbox. This is Tom Warren here. Tom Warren lets them know that the leaker of the fact that Xbox is killing its hardware, exactly what I said years ago, which, by the way, I said it years ago too, is I think a lot of people said this. The direction Xbox has been going has been like, they don't give a shit about the hardware. We've noticed this for a long time. Anyone paying attention has a good track record. Pack it up, boys. So let's hear what he has to say here.
You put on your feet.
A significant other thing that you put on your feet.
I will say he knows a lot of what goes on internally. So I don't think he's a bad source.
Sorry, you think what?
Not a
I
bad
think he knows
source.
a lot of what.
He's a developer, isn't he? Isn't he a developer?
I don't know exactly who he is, but
I thought he was
the record
developer.
Hit or miss.
There's a high likelihood that he is a developer. Based off of his past information, it would make sense that this is someone at Microsoft that is a developer in the console division.
Yes, but not miss. Like, it's not all miss. There's plenty of hits.
So that was that. And I also thought this was kind of funny. The gaming dude says, Walmart is not real. I said, Microsoft taking everything as an Xbox a tad too far. They cleared out their Xbox display and just put Nintendo Switch 2 games into it without changing anything. And on top of all this, we got Insider Gaming, Tom Henderson, saying, Xbox's dedicated handheld was canceled because AMD required 10 million units, it's claimed. It has been claimed that Xbox's now dedicated handheld was canceled because AMD required a minimum of 10 million units in its contract. It's a number that, at face value, would have been almost impossible to hit, with the highly successful Steam Deck selling around 4 million units at the time of writing. But according to the reputable leaker, that was the number AMD wanted. That's crazy. The news comes from reputable AMD and hardware leaker Kepler L2, who has reported on many AMD-related leaks in the past. Now, to balance this off, a very woke Jez Corden that has me blocked on X because I replied to him questioning something that he said in the past, and he blocked me immediately. And he has not been right about a lot of things himself, says that Kepler L2's claim isn't even slightly true, which, believe it or not, this is all rumors, by the way. I tend to believe Kepler L2. I do not believe Jez Corden. It was reported many AMD-related leaks in the past. According to Kepler, Xbox's dedicated handheld was canceled because AMD wanted a massive 10 million unit commitment for a dedicated system on chip. It was said that that with Steam Decks only selling around 5 million units and Asus ROG, Lenovo Legion selling 1 to 2 million, and Microsoft didn't want to take that risk. If true, It's not surprising that Microsoft didn't want to make a $10 million chip commitment in the current unprecedented times. But it's always unfortunate to hear of hardware cancellations. Now, to be clear about how this all works in the background, it's not one of those AMD's only going to do it if you sign for 10 million units. What I would assume is transpiring here is that the price valuation of it's worth it for Microsoft at the price point they were going to sell it at, they would need to make 10 million units for AMD to lower the price enough for the production of it to make that many of them for the price point that Microsoft wanted to sell it at to be worth doing. Because obviously Microsoft could get them to do it for less units, but they would have to pay more per unit, and it wouldn't make sense to do that, to be clear. Kepler did mention further down in the forum thread that the handheld was quite early in development, though, so at least this project that was canceled just before it was due, it wasn't a project that was canceled just before it was due to go on sale. This weekend, Xbox and Microsoft were hit by a series of reports that claims that Xbox was abandoning its hardware entirely and that the new round of layoffs was set to hit the company in Q1 2026, which, by the way, I want to go back to that real quick. Dead man walking. If you're working at Microsoft these days in the gaming division, hearing this rumor, I would make sure my resume is very clean, up to date, and ready to be seen. And I would be abandoning ship right now, which I wouldn't be surprised if that's actually what's happening. The game industry in general is a complete shit show right now, and hiring is at a very low, some might even argue all-time low, back to the days of the game crash. No companies are hiring people. None. No AAA companies are bringing new people in. The people that are getting fired for the crazy ass woke shit they're saying used to fail upwards fairly quickly within a month or two. And if you're Wizards of the Coast, I guess you're hiring a lot of these people. But outside of Wizards of the Coast, none of these people are getting jobs. None of them. They're all still looking for work, still unemployed, unsuccessful, and failing at trying to get back in the game industry, which I've said multiple times in the past too. Take a hint. Go find a job somewhere else. You have proven yourself not worthwhile in the video game industry. And right now it's going through a culling period and cutting back on the dead weight that has been in it. The bloat is being removed, and we are actually returning to a time of people in the game industry that are genuinely not just passionate about gaming, but really talented, that really want to make games for the sole purpose of making a game that really speaks to you, the gamer. When you hold the controller and play through it, you feel one with the experience. A lot of these games are just feel cookie cutter, feel like they're going through the motions. Ubisoft games specifically come to mind on that, but a lot of Microsoft Studio games as well, where it's like, oh, we are making a game. In order to make a game, you need to have a character, and then the character needs to walk. It's like, no, let's try to get a little bit more advanced than this. Let's think about the experience you get holding the controller and becoming one with the game that you're playing. I feel like a lot of companies have lost that part of it, the magic, if you will, of gaming that Nintendo themselves have been known for so many years. I'd almost argue Nintendo's losing a little bit of that as well. I feel like we need to get back to that in order for gaming to start leveling out and going back on the upswing again. But until then, hey, we'll always have our backlogs. And it looks like with E3 dying off, Dreamcast being a thing of the past, Microsoft being a thing that could potentially be a thing of the past, the competition of these studios in an environment of pure gaming ecstasy, of heaven being together, is not a thing anymore. To me, those days are long gone. I think Sony's going to hang on for a little bit longer after Microsoft, but I wouldn't be surprised if we talk 5 or 6 years in the future even. The PlayStation 6 was the last console Sony ever made. Xbox has not come out with another console, and everything is just turned PC or Nintendo, or you have these offshoot brands of other companies, or maybe other new companies trying to enter the market, like Apple finally trying to do something or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised. I feel like the landscape of gaming is going to change so dynamically. It's going to be jarring. Like when Microsoft first entered gaming, there's going to be something like that that happens to restart all of this again. But it's not going to look anything like it looks right now. That's for sure. But we'll see. That's why I love this stuff. We'll get to look forward in the future and see what happens. Look back at this video at that time and see, was I right? I'll leave that there.